BC's leading scorer as well as the 5th scorer in the ACC. He's a magnificent placeholder for BC's new generation since he's a 5th-year senior.
And Florida State, back-to-back losses in conference play. Their leading scorer, a freshman, is Malik Beasley.
Well, Florida State's led by 2 freshmen and a sophomore. They've suffered 2 losses in a row. This game will test what the young guys are made of and see where their maturity stands.
Officials tonight, Les Jones, Joe Lindsey, and Ed Corbett. Garnet and gold on the road here for Florida State. And the home whites for Boston College. Opening tip between Clifford and Bojanowski, and controlled by Florida State.
Well, Florida State certainly wants, against a BC team that doesn't like to run, Florida State wants to get up and down. Their strength is transition. You get them in the half court, and they struggle a little bit, as we see right now, searching for the best shot.
It's Bacon and Beasley with Rattan Mays at the point guard spot. Bojanowski inside, and he coughs it up. Monte Brandon, the 5th on the floor for the Seminoles.
Boston College, on the other hand, against this man-to-man, it begins and pretty much ends with Eli Carter, although inside out by Clifford.
Clifford, a senior from Bridgewater, Massachusetts, averaging 9 points, 7 rebounds a game.
Yeah, Boston College getting started by going inside with the expectation of the defense that they would play outside.
Going to the baseline, and Bacon finds the open spot, goes glass for the first 2 for the Seminoles.
That time, good recognition. Boston College's zone. Florida State had an idea of what they wanted to do on that possession.
Clifford on the interior with Carter just inside the arc. He pulls up, and the shot does not fall for the graduate student from Patterson, New Jersey. Strong take, and with the right hand, Monte Brandon gets right to the rim.
And I mentioned it at the beginning of the telecast. That's what they want to do. Florida State outstanding in the open floor.
A.J. Turner looking inside, trying to find Clifford. Shot clock is inside of 10 for the Eagles. Carter shares with Robinson, who connects.
James Robinson, second leading scorer for Boston College. That's scoring a sight for sore eyes. Just 1 double-figure game in the last 4.
Baseline drive, cut off from the corner. And it's called a jump ball. Boston College with possession.
Well, if Florida State can get the rebound, they'll push it up the floor. They've got some outstanding athletes like Monte Brandon who can attack. And again, we talk about Jerome Robinson averaging 11 points a game. He's got 11 double-figure games, but unfortunately, as I mentioned, just 1 in the last 4. BC could use a lot more of Jerome Robinson.
Talented freshman, native of Raleigh, North Carolina. He's got it, same spot, same result. It's another triple, and Boston College has the early lead.
I didn't know if I was going to use it early enough, but there's to you, Mr. Robinson. Got to keep getting it to him.
Got to find him. Part of a very young team. 6 of their top 10 scorers are freshmen. 9 freshmen on this roster. And it has been, to say the least, a rebuilding project for Jim Christian in his 2nd season. And there you saw somewhat what has been enigmatic about Florida State is those simple turnovers that can plague them. They too, at their most talented, are young players with Bacon and Beasley.
I'll tell you what, you mentioned that turnovers coming into this game, 97 turnovers in conference play. That's 14 a game, 2nd most in the ACC. And it's tough when you're allowing 80 points a game, which is next to last. Florida State, when they get to conference play this year, has had an awful lot of problems trying to stop the other guy, and they give him the ball way too much.
Foul is on Clifford for Boston College, his first. Lob to the basket, and it comes up short for Terrence Mann. Now across the paint, out of bounds, who's got it? And Les Jones, the official says it'll go back the other way. Florida State coming off a loss Saturday against Pittsburgh, 74-72, in which they led by 10 at halftime. 4 players at double figures. Beasley with 16. Here's Beasley with the drop off to the short corner. 8 seconds now. Beasley in the corner, and he hits the three. 41%. Best three-point shooter on the roster for Leonard Hamilton. Clifford in the paint, and the whistle on the give from Robinson. Leonard Hamilton, his 14th season at the helm for Florida State, and the winningest coach in Seminoles history. Foul there on Dwayne Bacon. The first on the freshman out of Lakeland, Florida, for Florida State. The first free throw for Clifford, who shoots 62%, goes through.
Mike, talk about the success Leonard Hamilton's had at Florida State. Oftentimes, his terrific teams have been based upon defense, but right now, this year, the defense is not what it once was. You know, giving up a lot of points, particularly in conference play, averaging about 80 points allowed per game, but their offense is really what's kicked up. And a lot of it has to do with the athletes, particularly Malik Beasley, as well as Dwayne Bacon.
Rattan Mays now resets. Robinson on his back, and he turns it over, gives it up for Carter. 15-footer, just short.
You saw that turnover on Rattan Mays, just a little bit of rushing right now. You give him some credit.
And Terrence Mann getting into the lane and getting the bucket. Clifford might have gotten bonked in the face there on that drive. 9-all in the early going for Florida State and BC.
ESPN's
Maker rather than a scorer. Remarkable transition. And the reason why he's become a playmaker is because he's got 2 outstanding freshmen who can put the ball in the basket with regularity.
Between Beasley and Bacon, the highest scoring freshman duo in the country. And you think about some of their company there, players we hear a lot about: Brandon Ingram, Luke Kennard at Duke, and then Ben Simmons and Antonio Blakeney at LSU as well.
And those 2 guys really helped Rattan Mays become the playmaker that he is, leading the ACC in assists per game, as you mentioned.
It's Carter on the wing, guarded by Beasley. Turned away on a nice show high from Jarquez Smith. A little bit of a gap there for Carter to pull the trigger. And then we've got a foul call on the way back down the floor.
Bacon went up strong for that rebound and got bumped. And I think had he not lost his balance, that foul probably wouldn't have been called.
Foul is on Edie Jallow, a redshirt freshman out of Los Angeles. For a team as young and inexperienced, Len, as Boston College is this season, Rattan Mays lines up the 3. Do you feel like opening in zone is a safe way to try and slow them down?
Yeah, I think what you have to be able to do, though, in that zone is to make sure that you keep them off the offensive glass. As I mentioned, they've got guys like Beasley, like Bacon, certainly when he's on the floor, Brandon, who can hit the offensive glass.
Beasley drains the 3. He's perfect from deep so far. All 6 of his points coming off a 16-point, 6-rebound performance in 25 minutes Saturday against Pittsburgh.
And that zone also provides a bit of tempo control. As we mentioned, Florida State wants to make it a 94-foot game.
Garland Owens had it taken away at the other end. Rattan Mays trying for the wraparound pass, picked up by Mann, whose try is just short. Pull up 3. Carter's got it. Ties it up at 12.
Saying BC trying a little bit of what Florida State uses, and Eli Carter, 50-year senior, he can pretty much do what he wants to do anyway, especially when you knock him down.
And that's where a lot of his shots come from. 45% of his shots are 3-pointers.
Boston College not known as a transition team. They just averaged 63 points per game. But right here on the break, Carter pulls up and drains it.
Foul against Garland Owens. And the basket good for Florida State, and it's Terrence Mann at the free throw line. Back near where he grew up, Lowell, Massachusetts. Played 3 years at the Tilton School in New Hampshire, was the Gatorade Player of the Year in the Granite State in 2015. And now it's Florida State by 3 after Boston College surged out to a very early advantage. One of the things when we spoke with Jim Christian about his team, Len, is that he said they have had not too much trouble surviving the first run by an opponent, but it's that second run, 7-0, 8-0, where they have trouble then picking it back up.
Well, a lot of that has to do with inexperience. You know, when you have to dig into your bench and play a lot of first-year players, you know, they have to have the experience in how to withstand those runs.
Carter goes underneath for Jallow, who gets the reverse layup. And a call under the basket sends it the other way. A battle in the post with Bojanowski. And that's his first foul, the offensive foul.
Well, it's a lot of it of physical play right here. Bojanowski trying to get position. I don't know why they called it on Bojanowski. That looked like Jallow with the arm bar.
And already here in the first 7.5 minutes, 5 turnovers by Florida State.
Nice. Up.
Carter wanted Jallow again. It's out of bounds. And last touched by the BC forward. So it's Florida State basketball.
You can see why Carter averages 4 assists a game. I mean, despite being a scorer, he's got a nice eye for cutters. Jallow just needs to get his hand-eye coordination together.
Now checking out that right leg. Perhaps trying to just stretch things out in the hamstring area.
Yeah, that looks like one of those modified yoga stretches. Might be cramping.
So Florida State up by 1, already the 5th road game of the conference season for the Seminoles. 2-5 in the league with wins over NC State and Virginia. And their losses not bad ones. Clemson, North Carolina, Miami, Louisville, and Pittsburgh. Bojanowski, one dribble into the post off the right sneaker and out of bounds. So when you put it in that context, Len, of who the Seminoles have played, this is a game that coming in on paper they expect to win, but for their own momentum's sake, really need to win.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, this is one of those tests in order to remain in that upper echelon, in that top level. They got to win this game. And it's tough, you know, on the road. I don't care who you are, and I don't care who you're playing.
Baseline reverse layup, Garland Owens. Making his 11th start of the season tonight, propels the Eagles back to a 1-point advantage. Quickly into the lane, and there's Clifford with the rejection.
Yeah, Florida State at 2-5. They have any hopes of kind of moving up the ladder. These are the games that they have to win. Got to steal one on the road, 1 or 2 on the road in order to be able to maintain.
Quick trigger, it doesn't drop for Booker. Down the lane, contact, and the Eagles come up empty.
Owens, easy layup. Just totally missed that.
And that's a foul on Clifford, his second. Both teams quick pace and a 1-point contest.
The fact that he's a senior being considered for this. Ben Simmons obviously a freshman, and he's got that ability to make people better as well. So it's going to be a nice philosophical battle as well, as close as they are from a talent standpoint. Do you give it to the senior or you give it to the freshman? what's going to be the difference maker.
Ben Simmons, former #1 in the ESPN 100, first among freshmen in points and with 14 double-doubles as well. Sammy Barnes-Tompkins picks up the foul for Boston College, his first. And Dennis Clifford, 2 fouls here in the early going, very reminiscent of what happened on Saturday against Notre Dame, where the big man had 3 first-half fouls by the 7.5-minute mark, 7.5 to play in the first half. And so he sits now. So you see Chris Koumadji come into the game for Boston College, or rather for Florida State. So Leonard Hamilton will counter with a lack of size on the floor, bring a 7'4" guy onto the floor.
And Koumadji, even though he's got that slight frame, he still has a presence in the paint with his length.
Brandon saved it. Koumadji with the right hand doesn't get it. And it's out of bounds. Ball to Boston College.
But obviously, when you take a look at inserting Koumadji in the big front line Florida State has, it's paid dividends thus far. They couldn't connect. And you take a look at the big fellas. Although Michael Ojo's still injured, hasn't seen action for a long time. USCF, Maryland, huh?
And that's part of the issue, too, for Florida State. In talking to some of the players yesterday, Dwayne Bacon, Malik Beasley, saying that they really miss Michael Ojo. Phil Kofor, who's out for the year. Ojo, potential to return with a meniscus injury, but no timetable yet. There's Eli Carter floating his way for 2.
And Carter, again, just a wide variety of moves to the basket.
It's a 6-0 Boston College run. On the baseline, and Beasley is called for the travel.
Another turnover by Florida State, and it ultimately leads to opportunities like this, as Carter just with a finger roll once he gets in the paint. As I said, a variety of moves, just has a nose for the basket.
Rattan Mays and Bacon back onto the floor as they spell Benji Bell and Monte Brandon for the Seminoles. Here comes some full court pressure, and Carter turns his way right through that as we pass the midway point of half #1.
And if you notice the experiment with that big size up front for Florida State, Leonard Hamilton decides to go back to more productive guys. Jarquez Smith on the floor, going back to defense as opposed to mere size.
And that's been kind of the tough part for Florida State, is that you have Bojanovski at 7'3", you have Koumadji at 7'4", but either do they fit into a game that's played at a higher pace, sometimes not, or can they hang around with bigger bodies? Not always the case either.
Well, Bojanovski should be more sophisticated. Koumadji is raw. He's got to learn how to play, so he needs to get some minutes regardless, continue his progression. Boy, a lot of contact right there.
Bacon hits the deck, sends it back for Beasley. Now a turn with the right hand, and it rolls off the rim for Jarquez Smith.
And even though he missed that, that's what I mean by a little more production up front. Jarquez Smith knows how to maneuver himself down low. He can get a good shot. Whereas Koumadji doesn't have the skills to create his own, and Bojanovski just wasn't being aggressive enough.
Look at the size or lack thereof on the floor right now. This looks like a pickup game, and there's no big men out there.
Jarquez Smith at 6'9" is about as big as you're going to get. And he makes the steal.
Pass into the post from Owens, right into his hands. And now Rattan Mays eyes up. Trying to bookend that play. Count the bucket and the foul. Smith going to the line with a chance to tie the game for Florida State.
And that's what I meant when Jarquez Smith, a guy who can create his own. And Diallo just not capable of getting in front and playing. He's standing straight up. Center of gravity too high to be able to move laterally and stay with Jarquez Smith.
And he gets all 3, tied at 18. So that's foul number 2 on Diallo for Boston College, along with Clifford, who's got 2. So 2 big men in foul trouble in the first half. Rings familiar from last weekend. And that's another easy miss layup there. Diallo unable to finish. Point blank opportunities going by the wayside for the Eagles.
And I know Jim Christian would wish that Dennis Clifford didn't have those 2 fouls, because those are opportunities, I'm sure, they have confidence that Clifford could finish.
Foul is on Xavier Rattan-Mayes, his first. When we spoke to Jim Christian earlier today, Len, he said, look, those missed shots, those easy ones against Notre Dame, that's where we got hurt a lot. We're 3 for 16 on layups. And he said he liked the shots that they took. They just didn't drop, but the layups are the ones they really have to hit.
Well, you mentioned Diallo's. We've seen that. We've seen Garland Owens miss a wide open layup to the basket.
Carter swings it. A.J. good from 3 for the freshman from Michigan.
Well, even though they shoot 33% from beyond the arc, they do make 7 per game. And that's a Boston College strength. You give them an open look, and enough of them, they're going to drain enough of them.
Well, so far, it's the lowest scoring team in the ACC, up 3 over FSU. Next Monday, you got Pittsburgh at Clemson on Wednesday night, 7 Eastern. That'll be a good one. And then Louisville at Virginia Tech. And really, Len, you got 15 teams. Hardly anybody can be counted out before a game tips off this year.
Yeah, and you're looking at a team like Clemson, who no one had any expectations that they would wind up 5-2 in the conference in a battle to try to get right behind North Carolina. They've been able to win close games. 29 straight free throws in 7 games. These guys, the Tigers, are shooting a league best 80% from the line. That's how you win close game situations.
And with a miss at the rim, 5 on the shot clock for Florida State. A shoulder into the lane, and Booker misses. Beasley fighting for it, along with Carter, and it's Boston College basketball.
And you like the hustle, you like the attitude, you like the intensity of Boston College right here. Take a look at the incidental contact. I'm assuming that's why there was no call, and then going after it. They were not about to just concede to Malik Beasley, who's trying to dribble the ball instead of getting possession. And, you know, when we talked to Jim Christian today, and I asked him about how he keeps his guys motivated, you know, it's really coming down to getting them to respond to his coaching. You know, assuming the roles, doing the little things that'll help the team grow and help them grow individually. And that's a prime example. It's all hustle.
And when the scores don't reflect what you would want, they tend to be lopsided in conference play. It's got to be those smaller victories. Carter from 3, back iron, long rebound, and it stays with BC. Daryl Hicks helps save it. He drives from the wing and is swatted from behind by Smith. Now Bacon hangs and goes to the line for 2.
And even though he didn't make that, you could see the outstanding athleticism of Dwayne Bacon, part of that freshman tandem. Take a look at Jim Christian still coaching. And, you know, you got to take your hat off to him, knowing how hazardous duty this coaching job was in trying to rebuild Boston College, who at one time was one of the more dominant teams in the ACC and in the Big East prior to that. And these guys, Mike, I mean, they're 0-6 in the conference, 7-12 overall, but in a game like this, they're not playing like it. They're playing like they belong. They're hustling, putting forth the effort.
They've shot well from 3-point range so far. 4 of 7 from deep and just 4 of 12 on 2-point field goal tries. So the long ball has been to their benefit in the first half.
Keep having a guy flash at that spot below the free throw line, the spot I call a sweet spot against the 2-3.
A step in and a bucket for Daryl Hicks, the redshirt sophomore from Louisville.
And even though they made that shot, they'd be better served against that zone to hit that guy now and then.
Beasley quickly daggers his way to the bucket for a 2-point answer. His first point since the 14-minute mark of this first half for the leading scorer for the Seminoles. Open look, and that drops for Golden Owens.
Well, it's a fun pace of basketball right now, even though I'm not sure Boston College can survive playing at that kind of tempo.
The Eagles showed a good first half Saturday against Notre Dame, down by 5 at the break, but then got outscored 42-20 in half number 2 at Purcell Pavilion.
Well, you take a look at Eli Carter. All eyes on him when he has it, and he's able to make guys better by getting them the ball where they need it. And right there, once again, he drives. Shooter rolls in behind him as the defense commits to Carter. He finds the open man.
Florida State foul on Jarquez Smith, his first. Carter, pocket picked. Bacon for Beasley with the flush.
And that's a great example of what Jim Christian told us, how pleased he is with Eli Carter's overall performance. But every now and then he tries to do too much. And when you try to do too much, it works against you. And all you can do is sit there and marvel at Beasley's athleticism. These cats are quick and they can get up.
Freshman number 5 in the Garnet goal, 4th in the ACC in scoring, behind Kat Barber, Grayson Allen of Duke, and Michael Benajay of Syracuse. Another 3-point try. The volleyballs around. Still Boston College basketball. Reverse layup, swirls down for Turner.
And again, credit for effort. You love to see guys hustling and be rewarded for the hustle. Offensive rebounding is probably the most effort element in college basketball.
As the double team came in there, it's a foul against Boston College, and Garland Owens picks up his second. So it's Jallow, Owens, and Clifford, all with 2 fouls right now for BC. The 8th team foul against the Eagles sends Jarquez Smith, a 60% free throw shooter, to the line.
And Mike, when Jim Christian referenced not being able to withstand the second and third runs that teams put on them, part of the problem would be that you get guys in foul trouble. If they're on the floor, they're not able to play defense the way they'd like for fear of getting in deeper foul trouble. Or if you have them on the bench and you're subbing for them, you've got that second level of player who's just not as talented.
Not as deep of a roster, coming from a team last year that went 13-19 and 4-14 in league play. The Eagles 0-6 in the ACC with their last win coming December 30th against New Hampshire, and their average margin of defeat in conference action, 21 points on the losing end. Traveling as Florida State basketball. Now the Seminoles have a chance to retake the lead. Seventh turnover by Boston College.
When you talk about that margin of defeat within conference, that's why, you know, you tip your hat and you feel more for these guys. I mean, despite getting pounded on average night in, night out, they're still playing hard. You know, they're not mailing it in. And those are lessons that are probably learned as well as, you know, brought to the fore after this game is over, after their careers are over, to learn that kind of resilience.
Rattan Mays the miss. Second chance doesn't go. And the third does. Jarquez Smith. It's the 5th time the lead has changed hands in this first half.
And you mentioned tall front line. Florida State not playing with the tall front line, but certainly 6'9" Jarquez Smith is making his presence felt.
Again, Clifford had those early fouls. Jallow has 2, but he's still on the floor for Boston College to give them some type of post presence. Carter on the drop, the kick to Robinson. His shot doesn't go, Out of bounds and last touch by Mezdiaks. Seminoles back out in front. They'll try and build that lead before the break. A 2-point defeat at the hands of Pittsburgh. And how about it for the ACC tonight? Wake Forest down to the wire in the first half with a 3-point lead over Virginia, a team that's 5-4 in the league, or 5-4 at home against a Virginia team 1-4 on the road.
Well, Wake Forest is a talented team. We've talked about that. We've seen them in action, but they just can't sustain. You know, and that's what they have to do. They're allowing 81 points a game in conference play. They've got to find a way to stop folks from scoring. Right now, 23-20. They seem to be getting the job done.
Yeah, that game was originally scheduled for yesterday and then moved because of Virginia's Sunday game against Syracuse. So everybody has Winter Storm Jones to thank. Quick follow, Jarquez Smith off a trampoline. And at Florida State by 3 as the Seminoles surge on a 6-0 run.
Smith did a nice job taking advantage of Jallo as he gave up position to go after that shot. Smith, Johnny on the spot, or Jarquez on the spot.
Still 2 syllables, so you're safe. Johnny and Jarquez. Quick pump fake. Robinson with a step through and a 3-pointer to tie the game. The 3-point shot has been Boston College's best friend. 5 of 10 from beyond the arc in the first half.
And boy, Boston College would love for Jerome Robinson to light up again. Like I mentioned, 1 double-figure game in the last 4. Did score 15 against Duke, scored 20 against Miami.
And another flush. Sending it inside, a wide open look for Smith.
I like the way Jarquez Smith is moving right now. Very active down low, not holding position, moving his feet, occupying positions given up by the defensive player, getting good position down low.
Neither Bacon nor Beasley, but Smith, who has the last 8 for FSU. Down the lane, making it look easy, Jerome Robinson. Smith draws the double team. Now Rattan Mays surveys his options. Beasley loads up for 3.
It wasn't exactly pretty. I'm sure that's not the way Leonard Hamilton would drill these guys, but Rattan Mays once again found a way to get the ball cross court, skip pass for the open jumper.
Carter. His 3-point try is around and out. Just 5 points for him in this first half. Shooting 2 of 8. Rattan Mays wants it. Back iron, offensive rebound for Smith. Another deep try, no. Bacon dribbles his way to the hoop. Now Beasley. You got a 2-second difference between the game clock and the shot clock, and the Seminoles, with the 3-point lead, are content to hold for the final shot of the half.
Boy, those are the little things BC certainly has to work on down the stretch in the half. Can't give up second and third chance opportunities.
And Bacon draws the foul as he penetrates. Bacon 4 points here in this first half, but 7 rebounds. Now give him 5. That is one thing that Florida State said they all as a team collectively needed to do better tonight, is rebound, especially boxing out, keeping Boston College away from second chance opportunities. We got a timeout, and we'll look ahead to Big Monday on ESPN.
Carolina, they obviously belong on that top line, but Louisville is the kind of team that can match up with them. They're an outstanding offensive rebounding team. They got good inside presence. They got depth up front, something that Carolina usually has the advantage. But right here, there's not much you can do in 5.3 seconds. Get it to somebody who can get it to Eli Carter. I guess it's Robinson right here.
and they throw it away on a play that did not play out as it probably did on the marker board 5.3 seconds prior.
It always works on the marker board. Come on.
Well, Jarquez Smith, averaging just 4 points a game, has more than double that at halftime, and the Seminoles have a 37-32 lead. On the other side, Brendan Fitzgerald, Adrian Branch with a look at highlights from around the country. Has been so problematic for the Seminoles is giving up second chance opportunities in recent games, but here 23 rebounds for Florida State, and 10 of those on the offensive glass, 9 second chance points, and that quite simply right now in a 5-point game makes a big difference.
Yeah, we talk about Jarquez Smith cleaning up. 11 points, 4 of 5 from the field.
And some foul trouble in the first half for Boston College. Dennis Clifford, number 24 in the white, who's up there with Bojanovsky, and that's where the foul is. Bojanovsky quickly picks up his second, 9 seconds into this second half.
And see, that's what I mean. You got to have your head in the game, and I'm sure Leonard Hamilton is giving Bojanovsky a piece of his mind. Why are you trying to deny and play that far out from the basket, create a foul situation?
A turn and a miss for Robinson, and for a second straight game, those short-range opportunities have been elusive, at least as far as falling through the basket for BC.
It's almost as though they're more comfortable beyond the arc as Bojanovsky on the roll. It's a nice pass and finishes.
For Bojanovsky, his first field goal try of the night, his first 2 points. Carter steps into it, unguarded, out of the 3-point arc. Bacon there to clean it up. Dwayne Bacon did a great job on the boards in the first half, and Bojanovsky under the bucket. And quickly, a timeout taken as Florida State has run out to a 9-point advantage.
Florida State just came out, played more aggressively. Yeah, now.
Welcome back to the ACC on ESPN at Conti Forum in Chestnut Hill, Mass. It's 41-32, Florida State over Boston College. Surprise, surprise, it's a freshman having a great game for the Seminoles. Malik Beasley with 13.
Well, Malik Beasley, the only freshman in the ACC that scored in double figures in every game his team has played, hasn't disappointed today. And he has demonstrated the touch from outside, his ability to get inside the paint, and certainly his athleticism. You know, this is a young man that has a great upside when it comes to playing this game at a high level.
And trying to help Florida State pick up ACC win number 3 of the year, which would get them to 3-5 in conference. Boston College at 0-6, their last win. Well, it was last calendar year, December 30th against New Hampshire. Their average margin of defeat, 24 points in ACC action. A series that as of late has been largely tilted toward the Seminoles, who have won 6 out of the last 7.
So Bojanovsky's going to give that one a longer look.
Definitely thought about it from the short corner there. And he picked up all of his 4 points here in the first 2 minutes of the second half. And a flailing effort goes down for Monte Brandon in a 6-0 Florida State run.
Hey, let's not forget, Monte Brandon averaged almost 12 points a game last year, was a starter for 30-plus games for Florida State. He's assumed a new role here on this team, and it's kind of given way to the freshman and Rattan Mays as far as scoring is concerned.
Boston College foul on Garland Owens, his 3rd. He's got 3. Edie Jello with 2, and Dennis Clifford with a pair of personal fouls as well. Second straight game with Clifford sidelined early because of foul. Space line drive, and it's Brandon for 2 more.
Outstanding pass, though, down low. Almost eyes behind us in the back of his head.
Rattan Mays going basically wherever he wants.
It's almost a little too much handled by Rattan Mays.
Robinson gives it up for Carter. Now back to Robinson. And at the bucket to finish for Owens, the junior from Maryland.
Again, good example of unselfish play. Boston College just moving that ball. Quick interior passing as well led to a layup. Now right now with BC, their issue is not scoring, although on the season, you know, they've had a lot of difficulty putting the ball in the basket. It's stopping someone, and they do a nice job of clamping down and in transition.
45-36 after the transition bucket. Well, Boston College finds itself last in the ACC in a number of categories. Points per game, one of those, 63 points a game. Bacon can't get it. Back on his way up, and it swirls home for the freshman.
That stick-to-itiveness. Just stayed with it. Quick jump, strong with the ball was Dwayne Bacon.
And two of the other things you see from Boston College, where they sit 15th out of 15 teams, is rebounding margin, -5 a game, and offensive rebound percentage, lowest in the league, meaning they rebound the fewest percentage of their missed shots by anybody.
Not only was it a foul, but goaltending by Bojanowski makes it a three-point opportunity.
15:49 to go in this second half. Florida State on the road, trying to snap a two-game ACC slide. Dwayne Bacon, a big night, 8 points and a career-high 12 rebounds, putting in work on the glass. Kentucky right now at number 20, trending up. You can catch those games streaming live on Watch ESPN and the ESPN app. Florida State 47, Boston College 38, and it's come down to rebounding. A big part of this game right now.
Well, again, you look at that deficit, -20 for Boston College. From their perspective, one of the big problems that they have is that they have a center, a 7-footer in Dennis Clifford, but there's no other power player there for them. Everyone else is a guard. And so they're really at a disadvantage when it comes to, you know, crashing the glass on both ends of the floor. You know, conversely, Florida State's done a nice job, particularly Jarquez Smith among others, in taking advantage. Dwayne Bacon more than anybody with 12 rebounds.
Len, where that disparity is highlighted most, Bacon with those career-high 12. Boston College as a team has 12 rebounds. Running the floor, corner try. No good, Rattan Mays. And it's quickly cleared up the floor for Carter. He steps into a long shot. That's a 2-point field goal to make it a 7-point game.
Well, you got to really take what you can do, and certainly what the defense gives you, and that's what Boston College has to beat Florida State from the perimeter. And you mentioned it, 13 offensive rebounds for Florida State, 12 total rebounds. Well, now 13 total rebounds for Boston College.
Carter, miscommunication with Garland Owens.
As I mentioned, you got to take what the defense gives you, but you also got to play to your strengths. And this, more than anything, is the strength of Boston College. Eli Carter on the pull-up. We've seen him do that in transition a couple of times today.
Len, for a guy like Carter, who started out his college career at Rutgers, spent 2 years there, then 2 years at Florida, what's the appeal for him of coming to a Boston College that won 4 games in the league last year?
Well, one is to play the game. I mean, you know, guys just love the game. Nobody wants to give it up if they don't have to. And let's face it, I think Eli Carter has visions of playing on the next level. And a team like this, where they really need him to be on the floor, and he's given pretty much carte blanche freedom to do what he needs to do within reason to show off his skills so he can help the team win when they can. But certainly he can demonstrate his skills. And there are a number of pro scouts in the building.
Jim Christian told us earlier today he's a guy that gives them confidence that really nobody else plays with because of how young they are, with 9 freshmen on this team. He's not their verbal leader. It's just not the type of guy. He 35 games at Florida over the course of 2 seasons. Had a broken leg at the end of the 12-13 season and took a redshirt year 2013-2014. So another problem for Boston College is not having that true point guard, and Carter plays that role, but he's certainly much more of a scorer. Jim Christian looking at next year's recruiting class. They've got a guy named Ty Graves who they hope will help out there out of Greensboro, North Carolina, and High Point Christian Academy, who will help fill that role. And he said, and then others, they don't know who that will be, of course, with how big the graduate transfer market is every year.
Well, again, going back to Carter, I mean, this is perfect for him. Not only can he help a young team with his experience and his skill, but being a lead guard, he can demonstrate that he can do that on the next level, because that's a position he'd have to play if he gets a chance to play in the NBA or even overseas at 6'2".
Shot clock was dwindling for Sammy Barnes-Tompkins, so he had to put one up. And you just seen the last couple possessions there for Florida State, down at the other end of the floor, throwing it over to the bench, and now just losing the ball out of bounds. Rattan Mays takes his seat. Malik Beasley back onto the floor, and Beasley tonight 13 points, tied with Jerome Robinson for the Eagles for the game lead.
And we mentioned it earlier, and it bears repeating. Florida State came into this game with the 2nd most turnovers total and per game in the ACC. And they're allowing 80 points a game. So they've had some difficulty holding on to the ball and stopping people. And Boston College is right in this.
Clifford throws it away. Beasley bookends it at the other side of the floor. The lob from Booker.
They're in this, at least for now. You know, that lightning transition for Florida State can take them out of it just as quickly.
And you heard Brendan mention that at the break, how it was a 5-point game at the half on Saturday at Notre Dame, and then they got outscored by 22 points in the second half by the Fighting Irish, even without Demetrius Jackson. Short corner jumper, good for Daryl Hicks.
Well, Boston College not ready to give it up yet. You know, it's a good play right there, good heady response to the dunk out in transition by Florida State on the other end.
Terrence Mann trying to go upstairs for Jarquez Smith, and the foul underneath against BC.
And this is what I'm talking about. The alley-oop, the dunk, not only is that 2 points, but it gives psychological advantage briefly. But Boston College has been in this situation so often. At some point in time, you know, they put up enough resistance that they're not going to allow stuff like that to bother them.
Boston College foul on Jerome Robinson, his second. 7.5 minutes gone in half number 2, and it's 2 team fouls against both sides. 2 on
nice
2, turnover, and then Robinson lost it on the feed forward. Think about just how many opportunities there have been tonight for Boston College within 5 feet of the basket, and how that could potentially mean a lead for them right now.
And especially, it's been the young guys. You know, it's been Diallo who's muffed a couple. You saw on that time Robinson, Hicks has muffed a couple. Young players, freshmen and sophomores, they get a little too excited. That's experience, or lack thereof, come into play.
Way ahead of the field, Barnes-Tompkins fouled on his try. And the freshman from Phoenix going to the line to shoot 2.
Well, we know the adage, you let a team hang around long enough and you can't put them away. And so far for Florida State, that's what's happening. They shoot themselves in the foot, and Boston College is trying to stomp on it.
Devin Booker, his first foul, first free throw is no good for Barnes-Tompkins, in a Boston College team that shoots just under 65% at the free throw line, which is last in the Atlantic Coast Conference. 0 for 2.
Remember, I said trying to stomp on that foot. You know, leave too many points on that free throw line.
And they've only taken 5 free throws. Look at the number of three-point tries they've had. 14 from beyond the arc. The penetration not quite at the same level as it is on a usual night for Florida State. So nevertheless, neither team able to pull away so far. Seminoles by 6 on the road.
Has to be concerning Leonard Hamilton.
Especially for a team that right now, this is a spot where they can turn the corner. Wins against North Carolina State and Virginia. Losses, which are all respectable, against Clemson, North Carolina, Miami, Louisville, Pittsburgh. So they're 2-5 in the ACC. This is a game that for the Florida State fan, you'd probably like to see it be a handy margin of victory to build confidence going forward with the rest of the schedule into February.
Although bottom line is you'd like to see it as a victory, period. Yes. Because it doesn't really matter. You know, the margin of victory. You take a look at the improvement, and again, it's the offense more than anything else. Leonard Hamilton teams not always known for offense, mostly known for defense. They've kind of turned the tables a little bit this year. More of a solid offensive team, and the defense has kind of lacked.
Robinson helps set the offense. Shot clock is at 7 here for the Eagles. Now 5 to shoot. Barnes-Tompkins goes to the wing. And it's cleaned up by Clifford, who's triple teamed and fouled on the baseline. Bojanovsky, Bacon were in the vicinity after the heave from Hicks.
Boy, they just barely got that off. You take a look here, offensive rebound. And just a little bit of a hand. That's almost a fingernail on Clifford. He does a nice job of calling the officials' attention.
Bojanovsky whistled for his 3rd personal foul. So Len, he's a 7-footer there under the basket. There's the shot from Clifford that doesn't go. How does he better defend that?
If you're talking about Bojanovsky, he's just got to get better position. He's got to put a body on someone prior to the shot going up. You know, once Clifford gets the ball, you just got to keep your hands up. I mean, he's got 2 of his 3 fouls. Bojanovsky's fouls have been cheapies. You know, just touch fouls, which big guys, you don't need to do that. One was almost 25 feet away from the basket.
Trying to go to work on Clifford on the perimeter. There the foul is on Darrell Hicks. The first on the redshirt sophomore guard for Boston College.
Well, the expectation is Jarquez Smith a little more mobile than Clifford in that matchup. They can go to him, get him on the move. You know, they got pretty good mileage out of Smith in the first half.
And Clifford, a guy who has missed significant time in his Boston College career because of knee injuries. There's Bacon working on A.J. Turner, and draws the freshman into his first foul. 7 rebounds a game, 14th in the ACC, and their biggest contributor on the interior.
And Mike, you're right. I remember Clifford as a freshman showing a lot of promise. You know, when Steve Donahue was the coach of Boston College, but then suffered those injuries, and it's really slowed his progress.
Bacon at the stripe. 13 rebounds tonight. He has attacked the boards relentlessly. Told me when we spoke yesterday that was going to be a point of emphasis for him today. Was really focus on that because as a big-time scorer at Oak Hill Academy, did not have to be a big rebounder because of the bodies they had there. And the primary focus for him was putting the ball through the basket. Now he has to be an all-around player and has shown a commitment to that tonight.
And the other thing I like about that emphasis by Bacon is he hasn't exactly been lighting it on fire from beyond the arc. Came into this game shooting 1 of 10 from beyond the arc over the last 3 games. But you don't stop, you don't quit playing the game just because your shot's not falling. You got to do the other things to help your team win. And rebounding, again, takes the most effort, the most focus and intensity. And he certainly has applied himself.
And yet has not attempted a 3-point shot tonight. 2 of 7 from the floor. So still, his last make from 3 came against Virginia back on the 17th.
Tell you what, Malik Beasley does not cheat himself going to the basket.
3rd foul on Clifford.
He took it right to the 7-footer.
Beasley to the line. 83% free throw shooter. Well, big Monday on ESPN, 7 Eastern. Top 2 teams in the league, North Carolina and Louisville. You can also see it streaming live on Watch ESPN and the ESPN app. North Carolina has rattled off 11 wins in a row. They're home Saturday against Boston College, and Bryce Johnson now 3 times this year the ACC Player of the Week.
And talk about the Carolina side, but how about Onuaku? Last 6, he's had double-doubles, so he's established himself inside. That's going to be an outstanding front-line matchup.
Garland Owens slicing through the defense, still a 7-point game. That's 6 games, all ACC play for Onuaku. Every game a double-double, and the Cards are 5-1 after a win over the weekend at Georgia Tech. A very hard-fought one that was close throughout. Beasley's got the offensive board. 14 offensive rebounds for Florida State, 17 rebounds total for Boston College.
Yet Boston College within 7. And again, it bears repeating that Florida State has to cut down on some of the unforced errors. The turnover situation has given Boston College more opportunities. They've got 9 points off of 16 Florida State turnovers.
Bacon runs the baseline. Back up top, Rattan Mays. 7 to find a good look. Book it for 3. Too long. And last touch by Dwayne Bacon's left hand. The ball to Boston College with the Eagles down by a touchdown.
Well, Devin Booker, last 4 games, averaging 14 points per game. He's one of the most accurate free field goal shooters from beyond the arc, I should say, in ACC history. 8th on the list at about 42.5%.
Booker good for usually 10 a night. Tonight scoreless, 0 for 4 from the floor. Carter so far, number 3 in the white, have not called his name much in this second half. He shares 3-point try and falls through. Sammy Barnes-Tompkins.
Only a 4-point lead for Florida State. They've got to now really focus in on building that lead, which means they've got to be able to exercise some more patience, get high percentage shots.
Stays here, 13 to shoot. Who needs to control the ball for those high percentage looks for the Seminoles?
Well, I really think the most experienced guy out there is Devin Booker, but that's not his job per se. Rattan Mays should be the guy. He's the ball handler. He's the leader in assists.
And he drops it off for Jarquez Smith.
I'm just saying.
Prescient words from my partner.
Oh, what a mismatch. And Clifford kind of fades away. He had the 6'4" Rattan Mays on him. He's 7'1", and he fades away from the basket.
It's a season high 13 points now for Smith. And it's a beautiful 3-pointer from Beasley. Team leader 41% from deep. And he's got 20.
A little more breathing room for the Seminoles.
Mike Cousins, Len Elmore with you tonight. Back to the interior. Clifford gets the bucket from the block. Florida State up by 7 as Boston College at home looks for its first ACC win of the year. Their first victory at all since December 30th against New Hampshire, and the Seminoles trying to snap a 2-game slide. Clifford with a rejection from behind on Bacon. Carter running the floor, and a reach-in foul. Ball will stay with Boston College. The Eagles down by 7.
I'll tell you what, Florida State's been able to create some breathing room with some good offense. It all begins with the ACC's assist. I think, you know, we're pretty accurate right here. Bryce Johnson having an outstanding year, so is Grayson Allen. And then the guys that are following, Michael Young, Cat Barber, Brandon Ingram, all bring something to the table. And we're talking about all-around players who contribute in many different ways.
And the thing that helps Bryce Johnson there is North Carolina 18-2, so you multiply that by 5. Nice backdoor cut from Garland Owens.
Well, it always helps to be the best player on the best team. There's no question about it. And of late, Bryce Johnson has been unstoppable. You look at that body made to play that 3 and 4 spot, that kind of length, that kind of athleticism. Hard to stop him. Not only is he a dunker inside, he's got soft touch as well. And, you know, he's really been dominant at times. 39 points at one point this year. Just some eye-popping stats.
North Carolina winners of 11 straight, and foul there was on Monte Brandon as well. You take a look at the ACC teams in the top 25. Duke is in a perilous spot right now with the Blue Devils losing last night against Miami. It's now 4 losses in the last 5 for the Blue Devils, and they may drop out of the AP top 25 for the first time since February of 2007. 167 straight weeks. Seven-point Florida State lead. That's the 5th longest streak in the history of the AP poll, by the way, for the Blue Devils.
Now let me say, is UCLA and Kentucky have something to do with it?
Yes, you're spot on.
Among others. Who are the others? Do you remember?
I don't.
I didn't mean to put you on the spot, partner. We'll research that together.
But I do believe that UCLA far and wide has the commanding lead for first place in that streak.
That's genuine curiosity.
Robinson going inside for Carter. His drop off. And the foul against Florida State with Jallo trying to find his way to the basket.
Good unselfish play by Carter, but the better play would have been Carter going straight up. He actually had the better shot.
Devin Booker, his second personal. So it's 17 fouls against Florida State and 5 against Boston College here with 6:01 left in regulation.
Free throws haven't been easy to come by for Boston College. Just 6 free throw attempts. They've only made 2.
They haven't been easy for Jallo, period, this year. He's now 1 for 12 at the stripe. But still, better odds at the free throw line than trying to win the Powerball. Rattan Mays, a dish to the outside, and the 3 is good for Booker with his first points of the night. It's 101 assists on the year for Rattan Mays, the first player in the ACC this year to eclipse the century mark in assists, as he's also the leader in assists per game as well, just ahead of Demetrius Jackson, who for Notre Dame is out Thursday against Syracuse and perhaps over the weekend may not suit up for Notre Dame as well, according to Mike Bray.
And that's what I mean by a remarkable transition from scorer to playmaker by Rattan Mays. Last year, their leading scorer. This year, as you mentioned, leading assist man in the ACC. He's had 2 games with 11 assists, 8 games with 5 or more assists. And he's really found a way to make guys better. And Bacon and Beasley have certainly benefited from Rattan Mays' unselfishness.
Off the pull-up, Bacon, the offensive rebound, and the easy finger roll. 11 points now for Dwayne Bacon.
But Bojanowski inside looks like he's got a shoulder issue right now, and it looks serious as he hit the deck, and he's writhing in pain.
Bacon now with 11 and 14, his 3rd double-double of the year, and this is a position, the forward spot, that Florida State can ill afford to have any more losses.
Take a look on the roll, and it looks just like Clifford, and trying to block him out, used his forearm, and maybe Bojanowski trying to fight back, but he definitely has an issue with his shoulder as he grabbed it. That left shoulder.
The Seminoles already down Phil Kofer for the remainder of the year, hopefully awaiting the return of big man Michael Ojo with a meniscus injury, who can warm up for games and go through some limited contact drills, but they won't put him out on the floor until he's 100%, is what Leonard Hamilton said last week. Clifford bodies his way into the lane. His try rattles in and out, off the back iron, then tipped in for the weak side. Darrell Hicks gets it to fall.
Darrell Hicks might be the second shortest guy on the floor behind Devin Booker, although Booker's listed at 6'3", Hicks at 6'2". I think Hicks looks a little bigger.
Well, you got to account for the added roster inch or two there, of course.
Oh, okay.
It's Carter running the lane. He hangs and he's turned away with Beasley on the defensive. Robinson, Carter, both attacking 94 feet on defense. It's Carter with his first foul.
Not complaining, but he really thought he got smacked on that end, and that foul was almost a retaliatory / stop the clock for a second kind of foul.
Florida State looking to go to 3-5 in ACC play, as led by as many as 13. That was in the early going here in the second half, and that's a very simple foul to call. It's number 2 on Carter, and his second in the span of about 30 seconds.
Regardless of the outcome of this game, if Boston College is on the short end, you have to give them credit again. It's still found a way to stay in this basketball game for a period of time. They made Florida State work. And again, with the youth that they have, an inability to match Florida State off the bench, you know, that's a pretty good accomplishment. And the one thing again that punctuates all of that is the effort. You know, they just haven't quit.
0-6 in league play after going 4 at 14, albeit with Olivier Hanlon last year. Now year number 2 for Jim Christian. Florida State 64, Boston College 52 inside 4 minutes.
Oh, but right now they seem to be playing up to their potential. They've got a 9-point lead against Virginia, you know, going down the stretch there in the second half. So maybe the light bulb is coming on. And when you talk about North Carolina State -4 scoring margin in the ACC, you know, they've got to find a way to shore up their defense.
Foul on Garland Owens, his 4th. How about Pittsburgh there? We saw briefly that the Panthers, number 10 in the preseason poll, and the way that they have played has defied pretty much every expert's opinion before the season. They're 5-2 in the league.
Every expert's except mine. I truly believe, you look at that team, you know, with the veteran front line and Artis and Young, you got Robinson, a veteran in the backcourt. You know, they had the talent. Now, they suffered an embarrassing loss to Louisville at Louisville, but that's, you know, not as egregious.
Jerome Robinson rises to deliver, but is down and appears to be injured.
Man, he summoned everything to get up that high, but he paid the price coming down. Looks like he hurt his wrist. Maybe in trying to break his fall. Hope he's all right. Take a look right here. He got up. Didn't have a chance to see that, but he's rolling around. It looks like he hit that wrist. It's another angle. Good offense and drawing the defender, and yeah, trying to break his fall. Seems to be shaken but not bowed.
Big game for him tonight. Their second leading scorer, 11 points a game, and he plays a team high 33 minutes a night. And he has been a huge part of what this Boston College team has built this year. Part of their future as well once Eli Carter heads out the door come March.
And that's why I said at the beginning of the telecast that Carter, as a fifth-year senior, he's a magnificent placeholder for a guy like Jerome Robinson. Show him the way. Robinson will pick up where Carter will leave it next year.
Now Barnes Tompkins has that attempt swatted by Smith. Numbers for Florida State. And Beasley coming from the corner, turns around and doesn't get it to go. Good night for Beasley nevertheless. his 8th game of the season with at least 20 points.
Hesitant to say this because, again, so many missed layups, so many missed offensive opportunities, but with 2:20 left, this 10-point game, it's not out of the woods yet.
Back-to-back possessions where Smith comes up with a rejection.
Although I guess I shouldn't have said it, because right away Boston College loses an opportunity.
Lob for Bertan Mays. He gets it back off the tip from Smith and sends it back out for Beasley. Long three. Inside 2 minutes now. Carter wants it from deep. Short off the front iron. Why not on a second chance? Yes, for Carter. He's got 13 and his second made triple in 7 tries.
And you take the eye test. I think more importantly, you watch them on the floor. The edge Buddy Hield would have is defense. I think Buddy Hield is a more accomplished defender. Ben Simmons, as a freshman, still either learning how to play defense or prevented from playing defense because he's so important to his team. And LSU would rather not have him get in foul trouble. But I think certainly his defense is not as strong as Buddy Hield's.
We talked about coming into this game, Bacon and Beasley for Florida State, the highest scoring freshman duo in the country. Number 5 on that list is Ben Simmons and Antonio Blakeney, 2 former AAU teammates who averaged just under 30 points a game collectively. Foul there on Hicks, number 2 in the white, seeded, his 2nd personal foul. And it's 9 team fouls with 1:32 to play here for Boston College. So right now a battle of attrition for the Eagles as Robinson departed holding his wrist, and Hicks comes off the floor as well.
It's all about going after the ball. Boy, he gets an inadvertent elbow from Bertan Mays. And insult to injury, the foul's called on him. Take a look at that cut.
And he gets sliced wide open. Wow.
It's a TKO.
So a difficult night becomes even tougher now. And the officials, the triumvirate of Les Jones, Joe Lindsey, and Ed Corbett, go over to the monitor to have a second look at that because the elbow was thrown. They'll have a replay review to see if it'll go as a flagrant 1.
And I had passed judgment already and said it was inadvertent.
And so what the rules say here is, would there be a flagrant 1 if it's illegal contact caused by swinging of the elbow deemed excessive or unnecessary?
I'm not sure that was a swing. I know he put his arm up to protect because I'm sure he saw Hicks coming from the left side. But I had already judged that it was inadvertent, and he's putting Bertan Mays on the free throw line, so I'm assuming that it was a common foul by Hicks.
So as it stands, originally called on the floor. And there's Hicks, now the seat next to former South Florida head coach and first-year Boston College assistant Stan Heath. So quiet night for Bertan Mays in the scoring column. He is 0 for 8 from the floor, but a perfect 3 of 3 out of the line. Elsewhere, 5 rebounds and 9 assists for the ACC assists leader, coming in with just better than 5 assists a game.
And that's his 9th game with 5 or more assists. Remember, he's had 2 games with 11 assists. And as I said, transition from being a scorer, an explosive one at that, from last year to a distributor, apparently has helped his team.
And it's his 2nd game back from being held out a week ago at Louisville. Did not play. A coach's decision there for Leonard Hamilton. So I guess to work some issues out between head coach and one of his star pupils.
Whenever there's a coach's decision and no explanation, you know something's going on there. A message had been sent. And maybe judging on this game, message received. 9 assists.
Foul on Beasley, his first. And it's Clifford at the line, 62% free throw shooter. No good on the first. He's 1 of 3 at the stripe tonight. Clifford had early foul trouble in the first half, had to go to the bench, necessitating that smaller lineup once again for Jim Christian, but has steered clear of that in the second half, picking up just 1. And now foul to stop the clock. That'll go against A.J. Turner, his second. Coming up now for Florida State, you've got Clemson, North Carolina State, Wake Forest. Those 2 games right there is where Florida State should lock in and say, hey, these are 2 we really need to have before you go on the road to the Carrier Dome against a surging Syracuse team, and then Miami, which is one of the hottest teams in the ACC.
Yeah, with 5 losses in the conference play, Florida State, if they have any hopes, and I said this earlier, hopes to get into that upper echelon, they've got to steal wins like this on the road, or not necessarily steal this win, since Boston College is winless, but they need to win a game like this on the road and then protect their home service. That's going to help them move up the ranks, and a win against a Clemson team would be extraordinary for them as they try to fight for an NCAA tournament berth.
Carter's now got 16. Another foul stops the clock. 58.
At this point in time, Florida State, our Joe Lunardi has them as the second 4 out. So wins against teams like Clemson, who've acquitted themselves very well, would certainly go a long way in Florida State getting back in the hunt.
You go back to last week when we saw them at Louisville on that Wednesday night, and Joe Lunardi had said at that point a win would jump them into the field if they were able to take down Louisville. This wouldn't be a win to that magnitude, but right there.
It's a step. Beating Louisville would have been a leap. That beating Clemson will certainly be a step.
Should be one small step for Seminole kind rather than a leap. Coming up next, we got Florida and Vanderbilt. Commodores 3 and 4 in league play, with nice games from Wade Baldwin and Damian Jones as of late. But Florida at 5 and 2. They've got a 3-way tie for second place in the SEC. They've won 3 straight. All alone at the top of the SEC, Texas A&M having quite the season there. Back to an 8-point lead now for Florida State. It's Carter, whose shot makes his way from beyond the arc into a missed shot. And Beasley fouled by Barnes-Tompkins.
And with Clifford out of the game, you saw no hope of Boston College getting an offensive rebound because they're just outsized. Clifford's in the game, but he wasn't under the glass.
Coming down to the wire as well, Wake Forest still leading late over Virginia, which I think is why Florida State will receive a similar lesson, perhaps not as painful as Virginia, if the Cavaliers end up on the losing end of things, which would be their 5th loss of the year. But this is a team, Boston College, clearly the 15th team out of 15 teams in the ACC this year. They'll fall to 0-7 with a loss tonight. But Florida State in no way looked dominant in this game. You never know what you're going to get coming out every night.
True, but again, they're playing on the road, and home teams certainly have an advantage to some extent. And Boston College really played hard. They just don't have the talent right now collectively to be able to compete, period.
So Florida State can put it in the win column, 13-7 overall. Their 2-game slide is over. Seminoles 3 and 5 in the ACC. Boston College still winless in 2016, now 7-13 and